So, hello. We're taking a look at all survivor abilities and piggy traps in the game, and how good they actually are. I will tell you, I do not own any of the limited traps or anything of that sort, so I do not own Snow Piggy and Tombstone, when otherwise I would have had them. Two reasons are that, for number one, I didn't know how to get Snow Piggy Trap back when it was out, and number two, I got Tombstone Trap, but it was on an old account. So, basically, those are the only reasons why I don't have those two. Ranking them based off of how they work in build mode, and their actual, item cost and everything, as far as I know them, that Snow Piggy might be we'll just do that when we get to it. First is the default trap, which I will be bundling in with the alarm trap, as they are insanely similar. So what do these do? Well, basically, for 4 energy, which energy recharges about 4 every 30 seconds, I think it is. It's about 4 every 30 seconds, which means 1 energy every 7.5 seconds, pretty much. So if something does cost 1 energy to use, then you can use it every 7.5 seconds, I believe. Which I don't know if that's actually how fast it charges, but that might be something like, oh, at the start of the game it charges slower, and it's actually 5 per each energy, or something like that. But it's under 10 seconds per energy, and it seems more like 7.5 for survivors at the start of the game, then maybe lowers to something like 2.5 per energy. Anyways, the default trap costs 4, which is a decent cost. So it's more of a B+ tier cost. I guess it's technically an A tier cost, because it's the second cheapest trap in the game. So that's why it's gonna be A tier cost, technically. Since trap has an E tier cost, a B tier stun, and a B tier size, which overall makes this thing, in its total ranking, probably a B+ trap, I would say. More like an A- trap, actually. No, B+. This thing's pretty good. I usually use other traps than default trap, because personally I like the other traps better than default trap. But honestly it's pretty good. Next we'll go over alarm trap, because it's basically the exact same thing. The only differences are that the alarm trap is red, and when somebody gets caught in it, it gives the mall warning signal on them, showing that they have stepped into the trap. But it costs 2 more energy, being 6 energy, which I would say is a B-, which is, I'd say, like a is like a B tier-ish energy. Like, anything below, anything like 3 is S tier, 4 and 5 are E tier, and then the rest are like C or D tier. So most things in the game are like an A tier energy. Anyways, with the alarm trap, it has 6, making it only a B tier energy, but it has a special effect, which makes both of these a good side grade to each other. But I would say default trap might be a little technically better, because it's 4 energy, not 5 energy. Because I feel like that one trait of alarm trap isn't worth 2 energy, it's only worth like 1. But they're still pretty dang close to how good they actually are together, and I would group both in A-, but default trap over alarm trap. Next is the small trap. Now this, in my opinion, is one of the best traps in the game. Many people see it as one of the worst, but it is definitely one of the best in my opinion, over how long I've used it. while 4.5 going to 5 seconds instead of 4.5 doesn't seem like that much, it's a pretty big increase, and I feel like they might actually be lying, and it might be 5.5, and they might be lying about it being 5, because of how dang good this is. But I guess half a second makes all the difference, huh? And when you look at the timer in Piggy, you will realize that half a second is all the time in the world, when you technically look at the timer. I mean, punk, like that. It's like a default trap. So, as like that. The trap time for small is definitely worth it. So, I would say small is one of the best traps in the game. You just have to use it in tighter corridors, at vents, etc. So, using it at areas where basically it's best to use it in it's best to use it in areas where like it's a tight corridor. Hospital is the greatest example of this. Though with Big Trap, it is the complete opposite. I think Big Trap would be completely fine as something like a 6 cost or a 5 cost. Like, literally, its cost is just horrible for how effective it is. Like, first of all, you know how Small Trap having an extra half a second makes all the world's difference when trying to catch somebody, going through a loop or anything? Was it going through a vent or anything, or a tight corridor? Basically, Big covers covers the second most area in the game, I believe. Second or third most, I do not remember. But I believe it covers the second most area in the game. Which, you may think you might have thought that Big Trap covers the most, but actually it doesn't, because I believe that would be Black Hole Trap when looking at the normal type of traps. I believe Black Hole and Big have the same type of radius. But you'll see with Black Hole and Big, they cost the same amount, and Black Hole just pulls them in. Which makes Big Trap completely useless, and Big Trap needs to be buffed into basically a 5 cost, and is the worst trap in the game in my opinion, because of its lower stun time and insane cost. I mean, this thing might be like B or A if it might be A if it was a 4 cost, but currently as is, it's like a C tier or a D tier because it's an 8 cost. It's so bad, and I would just never run it ever. Next is Slow Trap, the most unappreciated trap in the game in my opinion. Well, yeah, probably is. Basically, Slow Trap slows them for 6 seconds, which 6 is a long time, but how much slowness is it? It's a pretty good amount of slow. It doesn't make them horribly slow or anything, but it definitely slows them down by a big amount. While it is, well, I also believe it might, so it's the same, so this thing costs 3 energy, right? Only 3, which is nuts. Which makes its energy in S tier energy, its trap time for how long it stuns a player is technically the best in the game as well. But the problem is, is that it doesn't stun, it slows, which is the equivalent of maybe a 4.5 or 4 second stun, of a 4-second stun. It's pretty much equivalent to maybe like a 5-second stun or a 4-second stun. But instead of stunning them in place, it slows them down. So it's worth maybe the 4-second stun that Big Trap is. Except this thing's literally just a 3 cost with default trap size. Which them being a 3 cost makes it nuts. And is super effective. And I would actually consider this maybe an A or A+ trap. I also forgot to mention that Small Trap would probably be like A+. But Slow Trap is maybe A or A. I feel like Slow Trap is A or A-. Next is Egg Trap, which is basically the same concept of, oh, it's a normal type trap, except with an upgrade to it. But it costs more. So basically, you took slow and small and combined them together in a bit of a sense. All that egg does is that it's just the tiniest trap in the entire game, which makes it the most avoidable. And it's a 4 cost. It's the tiniest thing in the game, which to be fair doesn't even look like a trap. It just looks like an item, to be fair. So it's not easy to see it, but if you know what it looks like, it's pretty easy to know to avoid it. But it just slows them for 6 seconds and obscures their vision. I think it might be more worth a 3 cost, to be honest, than slow a 4. But that would technically make egg better. But, you know, I would say Egg Trap is maybe B tier. Around the B's, I'd say probably B+. Like, it's not that, well, it's not super good, but it's pretty good. It's just more of an average trap. Next is the Black Hole Trap. Basically, if you took a black hole and mashed it together with the small trap. So basically, it's a black small trap that drags them in like a black hole. Jumping actually makes you go way fast. Jumping is horrible when you're doing this, unless you want to get closer to the trap. Placing this, like, slightly under somewhere, or, like, next to a wall, or, like, a wall or something, to drag them through the wall and get them stuck on the wall is hilarious. And it's really funny that you can do that and basically soft lock people that way and get a free kill. But if you want to do something like that, it's really funny that you can do something like that. It is an A cost though, which makes it A-. Currently I think this trap used to be like pretty much S tier back in the day, but now that the energy system exists, I would, like, I think how they balance it is completely fine and it gets an A-, maybe? Lowest A-, I think. And next we come to one of the worst traps in the game again, Mousetrap. Now, why is this so bad? Well, it's a 7 cost, and it only tells you the location of players. That's it. And it has to roam to them. And to be fair, it roams at speeds pretty much like a bot. Well, pretty much like Duocara with speed blocks in build mode. Like that type of fast. Like, sure, it goes really fast like that, but it has ice physics, like Ombra and Frostiggy and such. So, it's honestly not that good. I might place it in B- or C+, to be honest. Big Trap also goes in C-, but I think C+ is good enough for Mousetrap. Next is Teleporter Trap. People think these are absolute crap, and in my opinion, they are not. The only thing I wish for these is maybe, is having an infinite amount of sets of teleporters. I think that would be something you should be able to do. It's stupid that you have to remove the portal, and it should just, in my opinion, it should just be sets of portals that you can place. Which will first place a pink and a pink, then a blue and a blue, then, I don't know, a gray and a gray, I guess, would fit, with the whole pink-blue aesthetic, or whatever. So I guess, like, pink, blue, white, red, green, yellow, or whatever, and they could all be randomized which color it is by default, or it could just be, you know, pink by default. But, these ones are actually A- in my opinion. Maybe, actually I think A or A+. No, not A+, they're A tier. I think Teleporter Trap is A tier. Now, people say this is the worst in the game, but it's not, and it's way better on bigger maps. And if you're better at the game, then yes. If there are spots you, for example, have to return to or are traveled to often, or the map is super big and you don't want to spend literal 30 and you don't want to spend like 30 seconds traveling halfway across the map, then just use teleporter trap. So for bigger maps, I guess like the Willow's map, was it the one with Willow where you can get the ending or whatever, factory or whatever it's called, would probably be really useful for this. But something like Hospital or Carnival, it doesn't really matter on. But on something like Carnival or Hospital, it's not, it just doesn't really matter on something like that. But on maps where you really need to go from one spot to the other to protect things, definitely yes. Or just long maps. That's why I say it's an A tier. Otherwise, usually it's like a B tier. Just depends on the map, mainly. Next is the crawling trap. Now, what's the crawling trap even do? Well, first of all, I call this thing Umbra because that's its literal name. But basically, it crawls after the nearest player, which also, if you're some skins like Prototype, you can just ride on the thing, which is really funny. You can use it as a taxi. Be mindful, it's slower than the Piggy player, so it's not going to be an effective taxi, but it's going to be funny. But yeah, it just crawls towards the nearest player with its horribly bad hitbox. Now, how horribly bad is this, and on what side? Pretty, and on Survivor's side. Which basically means this will get a bunch of unfair grabs on people. Like, an insane amount of unfair grabs on people and through walls sometimes. It's that bad. So, which it makes this trap really good, and honestly, A+, well, it's probably A because of that. Not A+, but I would say it's A. Next is Snow Piggy, which I don't have Snow Piggy or Tombstone, but, you know, I'm just ranking them because I have used Snow Piggy in build mode, with, like, the traps before, you know, trap point thing. Same with Tombstone in that sense. Tombstone used to be the guaranteed worst trap in the game at, like, launch and stuff. Though I did have it back then, and I specifically do remember having Mr. P back when he was brown, OL, Polly, Mr. Stitchy, and Tombstone Trap. So I specifically remember it being that. So yes, I literally did use Tombstone Trap technically back in the day. I just probably never used it that often at all because it was trash. But nowadays, it's actually pretty good. Nowadays. But if there's something like putting this near a desk event, or was it like the desk or something like that, or just something that would take a long time to normally do, or a cramped area where the survivor is going to want to stay for a slight bit, is really where Tombstone shines, though it is a 10 cost, which I feel is a bit unfair, and maybe it should be 8 or 9. Like, for back in the day, how good it technically was, it should have been like a 3, 4, or 5. It was like a 4 or a 5. For how good it is now, I don't think 10 is fair for how good it is now. Maybe like an 8 or 9 for how it is now. But yeah, I like it. I haven't used it in a while since, you know, I never got it. They should bring that back. And then bring Snow Piggy back, or just, you know, have something like, oh, it's a technically different version, and if you had it before, just give a legacy version or whatever of it to people who had it before. You know, like a legacy edition skin. Kind of like how TF2 did that, in a way. I know TF2 did that, with, like, if you were, like, pre-2000, if, like, before, like, some 2009 update or something like that, if you played any of your weapons would be called, like, legacy weapons or whatever after, like, 2009. I don't remember if it's from, like, past 2009 or something like that, or, like, from 2009, I mean, but you get the point.
So I think something like that for Tombstone and stuff would be nice, so we could actually use them without having to grind for them. Or just add the Easter eggs for them back. I don't remember how you had to do it for the Tombstone trap that well, but yes, there was the skeleton hand with the rose you had to do, and you had to build Skelly in the corner of alleys, is what I remember it being. But yeah, Tombstone nowadays is probably A minus. Well, it's probably B plus or A minus nowadays. Maybe A. Actually, it could technically be S tier, but I don't think it's going to be. I just feel like in one way, exit type rooms or super ground rooms are be super useful. Well, it could be super useful, but otherwise, I'm gonna give this thing. But otherwise, right now, I'm gonna give this thing, I guess, a B plus tier. And next, finally, the Snow Pea Trap. Now, this thing basically is. Oh yeah, right. There's the inflatable trap. So, the inflatable trap. Basically, it blocks people, and also you can jump on it, like as a physical object. So it's a smaller trap, like Egg, but it's like 3 times taller, and about like 1.5 times wider. And when they touch it, a giant Piggy comes out, which is funny. And it basically jump scares them and they get stunned for only 4 seconds. But it physically blocks them, so they cannot get around this trap. Same way that Black Hole also does that. What was it? Same way of how Black Hole also you can't get past it. But this thing's like an 8, 9, or 10 cost. I do not remember which. I know Tombstone's like a 10 cost, I believe. But I don't remember if this thing's like an 8 or a 9 or a 10 cost. Maybe it's an 8 cost, but judging based on that, and you know, how good it actually is in build mode, I would say this thing might go into A, because of that. You know, go into like B plus, A minus, or A. But I honestly don't know, since I haven't used it myself ever, you know, since I don't have an account that has all of the traps. Which, if there were an account with that, I would totally just, you know, if I could get an account with that, I totally would. Maybe you can do survivor abilities next time or something like that. But anyways, goodbye for now. Hello for later. Sorry I haven't uploaded. That's my own issue of not wanting... Well, it's not that I didn't want to upload, but you get it. Anyways, I guess goodbye for now. Hello for later. Join the Discord if you're old enough. Go sub to my... Go follow my Twitch or whatever if you wanna. As well as please go and like, subscribe, smash the bell, share a comment, etc. Anyways, love you! Bye!